He saved more than 100 lives in one of the toughest battles of World War II, but that was just the start of his amazing story. Before becoming famous in Hollywood, he gathered enemy secrets while pretending to be a clown. Later, his life changed dramatically when his wife was blacklisted, faced public harassment, and needed a bodyguard for protection. At the same time, his own career suffered as film studios turned their backs on him, despite his war heroism. Through it all, he kept fighting for his beliefs. Eddie Albert, born Edward Albert Heimberger on April 22, 1906 in Rock Island, Illinois, faced many difficulties in his life. He was the oldest of 5 siblings, and his family struggled. His parents, Frank and Julia, were not married when he was born, which his mother tried to cover up by changing his birth certificate. This small detail marked the beginning of the challenges Eddie would face. Eddie's family moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota when he was just 1 year old. There, he began to show his strong character. By the age of 6, he got his first job as a newspaper boy, which is impressive for someone so young. Eddie was hard-working and determined from a young age. However, life in Minneapolis wasn't always easy for him. During World War I, because of his German last name, he faced bullying from classmates who called him the enemy. A young boy faced tough treatment that could have hurt him, but Eddie didn't let it get to him. Instead, he found comfort in his school's drama club, and performing on stage became his safe place. Soon, he realized he loved acting. One of his classmates was Harriet Lake, who later became the famous actress Ann Sothern. Interesting how life brings people together again later on. After graduating high school in 1926, Eddie went on to study business at the University of Minnesota. He dreamed of having a steady career, but life took a different turn. The stock market crash of 1929 hit him hard, leaving him unemployed like many others. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, Eddie took various odd jobs to get by. He worked as a trapeze performer, an insurance salesman, and even a nightclub singer. During this time, he chose to drop his last name because people kept mispronouncing it as Hamburger, so he thought it would be simpler to use just his first name. In 1933, Eddie Albert moved to New York City to find his big break. He co-hosted a radio show called The Honeymooners Grace and Eddie Show for 3 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it provided regular work. After the show ended, Warner Brothers noticed him and offered him a film contract, helping his acting career take off. Throughout the 1930s, Eddie performed on Broadway in popular productions like Brother Rat and The Boys from Syracuse, but he was also drawn to film. Eddie was one of the first actors to appear on television in 1936, performing live in one of RCA's early broadcasts. Television was new back then, and Eddie played a role in its development. By 1938, he had moved to Hollywood and made his film debut in Brother Rat, sharing the screen with Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman. This was a good start for Eddie, and he quickly became popular, appearing in films like Onitos. Eddie lived with Burl Ives for a while, and everything felt right in his life. But in 1942, when World War II began, Eddie decided to join the United States Coast Guard. The following year, he joined the U.S. Naval Reserve as a lieutenant. He showed great courage during the war. In 1943, during the Battle of Rawa, he was in charge of a landing craft. The battle was tough, with enemy fire coming at them from all sides, but Eddie remained fearless even under heavy machine gun fire. Eddie Albert rescued 47 stranded Marines and helped save 30 more. For his bravery, he received the Bronze Star with a Combat V. This shows that Eddie Albert wasn't just playing a hero in films, he was a real hero when many others might have given up. After the war, he went back to Hollywood, but it was tough for him to adjust to civilian life. Despite these challenges, he didn't give up. He focused on his work and took roles in films like Mr. Nobody and Ladies' Day. He even worked again with his old co-stars Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman in the film An Angel from Texas. Eddie's acting career was on the rise, but he always remembered his experiences during the war, which influenced his choice of roles and his approach to acting. He aimed for his work to connect with audiences on a deeper level. By the late 1940s, Eddie Albert was well known and admired for his charm. Eddie's talent and versatility made him a well-known figure in both films and TV, excelling in both dramas and comedies. He had a special ability to engage audiences, and his career was only getting started. In the 1950s, he began exploring new opportunities, showing that he was more than just an actor, he was a pioneer. His first TV series, Leave It to Larry, aired in 1952. Although the show lasted only a few months, it marked an important step in Eddie's growing career, where he played the main character numerous times on his father-in-law's funny behavior at home and work. Although his first show didn't do well, it helped Eddie gain important experience in running a series. He didn't give up, and a year later he got his own variety show called The Eddie Albert Show. It was a risky decision, and critics weren't very nice about it, but Eddie's charm and talent still stood out. During this time, he went back to Broadway, where his passion for live performance started, and he starred in a successful musical. Eddie became a well-known stage actor after his work in Miss Liberty and The 7-Year Itch. The excitement of Broadway inspired him and allowed him to connect with audiences in a real way. But Eddie didn't just stick to safe theater and sitcom roles. He chose challenging parts. One of his notable performances was in the first TV version of George Orwell's 1984, where he played Winston Smith, a troubled character. The main character in a dystopian world brings a deep intensity to both TV and film. Eddie continued to do well, starring with Lucille Ball in The Fuller Rush. He played a charming but imperfect traveling salesman in Carrie, which earned him his first Oscar nomination for Roman Holiday with Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck. In Roman Holiday, Eddie played the fun best friend, a role that wasn't just memorable but also iconic, showing his talent for stealing the spotlight without taking away from others. Eddie was a talented actor who could do things that many others couldn't. In the show Oklahoma, he played a charming and funny peddler, showing a side of himself that was different. He made this character more interesting, adding both humor and emotional depth. Whether he made people laugh or cry, Eddie made every role memorable. But acting wasn't enough for him. He also used his fame to talk about important issues he cared about, like conservation and farming. Eddie's hobbies reflected his values. He often included his love for nature and sustainability in his work by playing characters with similar beliefs. By the 1960s, he had become very skilled at changing his approach to connect with audiences through acting, advocacy, and humor. In 1965, he landed the role of Oliver Wendell Douglas in Green Acres, which became a major success and defined his career for a new generation. A city lawyer tries to live simply on a farm, which resonated with viewers. He was joined by Ava Gabor, who played his glamorous and funny wife. Together, they added warmth and humor to every episode. The lawyer appreciated the show's success, but more importantly, he valued the happiness it brought to people. He often mentioned how the show's humor touched on real-life issues while making people laugh. Off-screen, he was genuinely interested in farming and even started a project related to agriculture. Eddie had an organic garden at his home in California, and it was more than just a hobby, it was a big part of his life. Even though the show was lighthearted, Eddie took his role seriously, which made it special. He valued being genuine, so when his character felt angry or sad, those emotions were real. Eddie believed acting helped him show feelings that society often kept hidden, and that might be why his performances felt so powerful. After Green Acres ended in 1971, Eddie didn't take a break, even at age 69 when many actors think about retiring. Instead, he signed a new contract with Universal Television and starred in the show Switch, where he played a retired police officer who becomes a private detective. Eddie showed that age doesn't matter. The show was successful in its first season thanks to his lively performance that kept fans interested. In addition to his TV work, he also took movie roles that showed a different, darker side of him, like in The Heartbreak Kid. An overprotective father earned another Oscar nomination for his role as a ruthless prison warden in The Longest Yard. This showed that he could convincingly play villains just like heroes. In the family movie Disney's Escape to Witch Mountain, he won over audiences as a tough but kind-hearted man. As he got older, he continued to bring energy to his roles. In the 1980s, he took on new challenges, including playing the U.S. president in Dreamscape and appearing in popular TV shows. In a Murder, She Wrote episode called Highway to Heaven, Eddie reunited with Ava Gabor for a Green Acres reunion special, reminding fans of why they loved the show. Eddie wasn't just an actor, he lived by his values. He worked with universities to create organic farming practices and spent a lot of time promoting conservation. His desire to improve the world went beyond acting, which made Eddie Albert truly special. Eddie was known as a hero and kept working in acting and advocacy as he got older. His last movie role was a cameo in The Big Picture in 1989. However, he faced many personal and professional challenges later in life. Despite his success and charm, he dealt with heartbreak and remained determined to do good. One of his toughest times was in the early 1950s when Hollywood was blacklisting actors. During this period, his wife Margot played a significant role in his life. A skilled Mexican actress openly shared her progressive political views, even though she was not a member of the Communist Party. Her activism, especially her participation in an anti-Franco rally, drew attention from those who wanted to label and blacklist both her and Eddie. Their names appeared in Red Channels, a famous pamphlet that claimed entertainers had connections to communism. For Eddie, these accusations seriously affected his career. He had been doing well, but suddenly studios stopped wanting to hire him and opportunities were closed off. Once welcoming doors were now firmly closed. Margot endured severe consequences, facing harassment, public spitting, and the need for a bodyguard. The blacklist not only jeopardized their jobs, but also changed their lives. Eddie found strength during this tough period because of his past as a war hero in World War II, which gave him an edge that others lacked. His son later said that Eddie's bravery during the war helped keep his career in Hollywood alive, as they couldn't entirely overlook someone who risked his life for others. Eddie managed to return to his career, but Margot's never fully bounced back from the unfairness of the situation. This injustice stayed with Eddie, and he frequently talked about the harm caused by the fear-driven politics of that time. He saw how the blacklist destroyed lives, led people to feel hopeless, and even drove some to take their own lives. Despite these difficulties, Eddie didn't allow the pain of that period to define him. Instead, he concentrated on his family and work, putting his energy into his skills and the causes he cared about. In 1945, Eddie married Margot, and they created a life filled with love, creativity, and activism. They had a son, Edward Jr., who became an actor like his father, and they adopted a daughter, Maria, who became Eddie's business manager. Their home in Pacific Palisades showed Eddie's values. It was on an acre of land with a cornfield in front, and Eddie grew organic vegetables in a greenhouse. His love for nature was an important part of his life. Eddie became very active in environmental and social causes. In 1907, he helped start Earth Day to raise awareness about the importance of protecting the planet. Eddie didn't just speak about saving the Earth, he took real steps to make a difference. He founded the Eddie Albert World Trees Foundation and worked with groups like the Boy Scouts to encourage conservation. He also teamed up with universities to create organic farming methods, hoping to inspire others to adopt sustainable practices. Eddie spoke out against problems like pollution from farming and the use of harmful chemicals like DDT. He saw how these practices caused harm and wanted to help. He also worked hard to fight hunger, serving as a special envoy for Meals for Millions and appearing in documentaries about malnutrition. Many recognized his efforts, and he was often called Ecological Paul Revere, which suited him well given his dedication to promoting environmental awareness. Eddie showed responsibility in his activism and used his creativity to make educational films, including documentaries about human growth and development. One unique project he did was an industrial film for a logging company, where he talked about the importance of sustainable timber production. However, Eddie faced great sadness in his later years when Margot died from brain cancer in 1985. Losing her was very difficult because they were true partners, sharing a deep love for each other. Eddie and his family were committed to improving the world around them. However, he experienced heartbreak when his son, Edward Jr., died after fighting lung cancer. Edward Jr. put his job on pause to care for Eddie during his last years, showing the strong family values that Eddie always cherished. In his later years, Eddie also faced health challenges, including a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease in 1995. His memory faded, his spirit remained strong. He continued to exercise and stay active, a reflection of the vitality that had defined his life. Eddie passed away on May 26, 2005, at the age of 99. He was laid to rest next to Margot near his Green Acres co-star, Ava Gore. Eddie's legacy is one of resilience, kindness, and unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. He wasn't just an actor, he was a hero, both on and off. Off the screen, from his bravery in World War II to his activism in the fight against Eddie Albert, had an amazing life, and even today, his work in film, TV, and society inspires many people. He taught us that no matter what difficult things you face in life, like personal loss or challenges in your career or community, you can overcome them. Eddie Albert wasn't just an actor playing a hero, he was a real-life hero.